You are watching and listening to Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube and your favourite podcasts.
Right, Chris.
Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good day, good morning, good night, goodbye. Hello, welcome along to LTID TV from Leicester Till I Die. Thank you for joining us. Whether you're watching on YouTube, thank you very much. If you are, please do feel free to join in the chat. If you're watching on catch up, add your comments in below. We're always welcome. Just keep them polite, eh? There's no need to be unpolite. And if you are listening via your favourite podcast platform, cheers. Thank you very much for doing that. Let me just drop that a little bit. I don't think I showed my man boobs off there. Well, like I say, we got rid of Dean Smith. Within 6 days of winning the Champions League, Enzo walked through the door. I think he even broke his own record, because he had the ink had not gone dry on the thing that said, congratulations, you are a championship winner. And he was going off to Chelsea. Now, I'm not saying I have anything against Chelsea. They only took Kante from us, Drinkwater, Chilwell, Fofana. I mean, those are the ones I just remember. And now, not only are they satisfied with taking our players, they've come and taken our manager as well. It does, all joking aside, though, seem a odd decision. I don't think it was a case that they sacked Pochettino. I don't necessarily think Enzo's going to be there long. I don't think he's the right choice. 5-year contract, seriously. But, it is what it is. But look, we've spoken so much over this last week and a half, getting people's views on it. I've never yet got a Chelsea fan's view. So I thought, you know what? It's only fair that we get a Chelsea fan on. So here we go. Those things. They're called Chelsea. We, of course, like to call them Leicester B. But there we go. Let's bring him in and say hello. Oh, let me just press the right button. There we go. No, it's not.
That's basically what Chelsea's become these days, along with Leicester. We're not really there where we belong, but nice to be here, Chris. Great to be here, in fact. And again, I'm pretty sure OGs of the channel may recognize me from the previous season and a half. Always, been here no matter what, Chris, whether good, bad, or ugly. But the reality is that I think I've personally learned a lot from Chris in terms of content creation. So big ups to Chris and the channel, Leicester Till I Die TV, to do that. And of course, I say all these good things, and you know what is going to be following now, Chris. I think apart from Kante, I think we've been duped, bro. I mean, it's not been great. Be it Chilwell to some extent, yes, but Drinkwater, Fofana, and now Enzo Maresca. I am with you on that. I agree that possibly, as in it is possibly what it's quite obvious that no one in that deepest, kind of a nightmare would have thought that Chelsea would have appointed the championship winning manager right now, and Leicester, who've just been come back to the Premier League, would be able to get rid of the manager. I don't know, this is what modern football is, Chris. Do you think that modern football sees football differently than what some of us saw?
To me, and I will ask you about him as soon as he's come up. I think everybody sees football completely differently to Todd Bowie. I mean, I think the fact that you can run an American sports outfit is one thing, but to then think that you can apply those same sort of ideas to an English club. I mean, I was just looking before we came on. I'm just going to go through your recent managers here. And I think it's quite all right. This is Wikipedia, so bear with me. It may or may not be wrong, but when they normally say how long a manager's been there, they usually do it by years or seasons. With Chelsea, they actually list it by days. So you had Pochettino was there 325 days, Lampard 85 days. I'm not going to mention caretakers, but because you had Potter for 206. Tuchel, all right, fair enough, 589. Lampard, 571. I think you would agree that was probably a mistake, but there we go. Sarri, 337. Your last one that stayed there a long time was Conte. And in fairness, he had, as I go further down here, he actually won you the Premier League and the FA Cup.
The last time he won both the competitions, exactly. And it's been a fair while. 6 years for the FA Cup, 7 years for the Premier League, albeit I think, let's be real, can say that we should have won a couple more English club cups and we kind of screwed it up, towards the end. But it is what it is, at the end of the day.
You were challenging Watford there, aren't you, for the title of the club that changes the manager?
Come on. I would say you would give the example of the Galacticos versus Real Madrid.
No. Watford, I think, works well for us here. I know in other countries they do it, but look, I've nothing against Chelsea. I mean, at the end of the day, it's that old thing. There's always a bigger club. I'm sure if the Italian national job or Real Madrid came knocking, I honestly think Enzo would move on to them.
Oh, yes, for sure. I think an example could be, why I was telling that football is changing, Chris, because Vincent Kompany, like we all know that he impressed the championship, but for whatever reason, he is a manager who's literally managed 2 seasons and a half. Enzo has managed 1 season and a half. And these guys have done good, mind you, as in I'm not saying very bad or great. It's somewhere in between. So with that, you're getting jobs, and I know that currently one can argue that we are shit, but let's be real, we know where we belong, right? Chelsea, as in let's get that real, along with Bayern Munich. Now Bayern Munich appointing Kompany, Chelsea appointing Enzo Maresca, and we actually rejecting, or rather not coming to terms last season, if you remember, when Potch was appointed, Luis Enrique. Now, and Hansi Flick is going to Barcelona, and we have met these managers. So I think football, the entire blueprint of how football is seen, if you see the Manchester United project, which is restarting with the Ineos group coming in, I think is also supposed to be in that direction. I think it's more about creating that good environment around the club and creating a club as a business. Not like the Leicester. Like Leicester always had a good feel factor. I think I envy Leicester for that. And I've always said that to you, Chris.
Yeah.
But I think Leicester was actually that good field club. Clubs are wanting to make it the good field club by just appointing good footballing managers. And I'm not sure if it's going to work. It isn't going to work. Well, we have seen that movie before, haven't we? Like, I know current owners will say that the directors who were appointed just after we took over did not really appoint Graham Potter. But we all know the Graham Potter appointment in Chelsea previously was supposed to be exactly on the same lines why Enzo Maresca has been appointed, right? We wanted that good football playing identity, which is something which I think under Ancelotti for a couple of years we had got and we lost it down the lane. And I think we want to get that back. And I think in simple terms, it's hard to say, what the owners are. And you're right, absolutely. It's nothing to do with just America, but the fact that these owners in particular, they want their say. Like, it's almost an egoistic decision time and again, saying that, see, we understand that Abramovich did a certain way. Chelsea was one of the most successful clubs in England in the last 25 years. But we are Clear Lake. We are Clear Lake, and we want to do things our way, and we want to stamp our authority. So it's almost like the corporate structure of the Americas, if you know what I mean. Having worked there, I know I faced that. Let's get that real.
But let me ask you, because I don't know exactly what went on. From an outsider, as far as I can see, Pochettino wanted more say in things, and Bowley didn't want that. Now, the interesting thing is, and we know money talks, money always talks, but the interesting thing is that Enzo said, I want to have more control at Leicester. He wanted to be involved more.
He did say that, yes.
Now, if he's not getting it at Leicester, he's pretty well not going to get it at Chelsea, is he?
But to be fair to him, he did correct it. Although I know what he meant initially, we all know, right? What he meant it, right? Enzo really, and see, I don't like to stereotype, but we've seen a Chelsea, you've seen Italian managers, and of course, a certain Claudio Ranieri comes to mind, right? The common factor.
Yeah.
When there is a lot of good things in them, I think Dutch and Italian managers have always been known to kind of make their point. They cannot just listen, they cannot be puppets. And we've always known that. And this is a thing, if you see the history of the Italian managers we've had, if you see the history of Dutch managers that have managed in the Premier League, I think more or less it has ended this way. What is happening with Ten Hag at Manchester United? That I think this is the thing about Italian and Dutch managers. They are infamous in that way. And I think it's about just their culture. And I think that is where the owners do not understand that. They are just going with the statistics, data, as in what you've recently won, what kind of football you're playing. While that is all important, but don't tell me, as in with all due respect to Enzo Maresca, I know that he's got a lot of help from Pep Guardiola when he was there at Man City, similar to Arteta. I get that, and that is something that one would go with, because Arteta's disciples, so as to speak, are doing it in world football. And we cannot kind of run away from that. That's the reality. But why is it always the case that we have to go with basically a tried and tested method of someone else when we ourselves had a DNA which worked for 25 years? And why screw it up? So for me, the whole idea about changing the way we play football, changing the way we deal with managers, changing the structure of the club in terms of the directors having more say compared to the managers, I think this is something which is like you are uprooting a tree which is already grown. You don't need to do that. You just had to come and continue with what things are going well. And mind you, we actually won the Club World Cup the season that we got sanctions. I'm actually wearing that for a reason. And it pains me to say it, Chris. I'm sure that you watch and others have watched. I have lost my shit. I'm sorry, pardon my language, but I lost it totally on my streams this entire year, because I could see literally the very first appointment of Pochettino was incorrect. As much as he was a good manager, he's a good coach, he's a good man and all that, I get that. But you have to smell the elephant in the room. Chelsea fans at Stamford Bridge will never be happy with an ex-Tottenham manager who was there in the opposition dugout on Battle of the Bridge. When things go wrong, we are the first ones to complain. Right?
Oh no, we love Chelsea that game, believe it or not, for some reason.
Oh yes, of course, that game is very important for both of us, right? In the sense, for us, kind of doing 1 hour Tottenham for sure.
Do you think? I mean, you've gone through a lot of managers, and let's be honest with you, it was working. You change your managers regularly. It didn't matter what they won. Let's be honest with you. Was it not Viardi? Was it Di Matteo? He won you the Champions League, and you went and sacked him. It was working. It was working. Your managers were coming in, and they were winning things. I know, like, we have got this Manchester City anomaly at the moment. They are the Man United of the current time. But you think getting rid of Thomas Tuchel was wrong? I mean, he saw through the problems that obviously with the Russian ownership and what was going on in Russia and Ukraine. He basically, I don't know, again, I'm only saying it from the outside, he seemed to keep the club going, and yet he was dumped.
He was like as you say, like, if I have to pick, as in, I don't know if you can see in the corner of my backside, like, there is actually Jose Mourinho. So for me, obviously, Chelsea fans, just like Ranieri is to you guys, Mourinho is to Chelsea, right? But right after him comes Thomas Tuchel. And yes, I know we've had the Di Matteos, the Lampard, the Ranieris. We've had, obviously, more recently, Conte. But I think Tuchel was surely a proper Chelsea man by the time he left Chelsea. And that, what I mean by saying that, like you said it, right? When we were in the toughest times, and it's just not Chelsea, I think we can almost argue I think no club in England has faced what Chelsea has faced in the Premier League, at least. That level of the sanctions and come on, and let's get that real. As much as, yes, I'm not saying that we are very clear Abramovich was a saint. I'm not going to say that, right? But let's be real. 19 out of 20 clubs are involved in some malpractice or the other, and that's what business is. Unfortunately, that's the name of the game. It's just that the certain things that we were sanctioned, and we've got to be real again. Like, there are a lot of charges against Man City. It's been a year and a half. Till now, I cannot see anything being done. If it was Chelsea, let's be real, we would have got relegated in the Premiership already. That's how things go. And I think that sanction which came by, in my opinion, was so unfair. It was simply blatant unfair, because it's not like Abramovich was involved in something wrongdoing directly. It was more of an allegation, right? He was just involved out from an outside. So it doesn't make any sense why we got allegations, and then we panicked as a club. And that's the last point at which, as a club, which was, even though we had a lot of manager sackings, we were stable, right? Obviously. And we gone through all those changes. Of course, the appointment of the owners, in fact, so-called, it's a set of people coming together, right? So it's always difficult, right? For it's like too many cooks spoil the broth kind of thing, and that was bound to happen. But along with that, those people came in and changed the medical staff, let Petr Cech go. Those kind of things are something which I will not accept till date. And I think Thomas Tuchel, he said it in an interview, we might as well basically, drive in an 8-seater, when a certain flight wasn't available for them to go to Lille. So I think those are things which clearly say that we made a mistake. Yes, it wasn't like very rosy as well. He's had his issues in terms of man management. I remember with Pulisic, who supposedly was a Thomas Tuchel player, mind you, when he used to be at Dortmund. He actually, at the end, wasn't happy with Thomas Tuchel, the way we played, quite defensive, quite only on counter-attack. Those kind of things I agree. But those kind of things could have been fixed. And you know what? I think there was a misconnect almost. There was lost in translation, something happened, because Thomas Tuchel always said, I want to be the coach. I do not want to get involved in other things. My job is to coach. It is just that a couple of things they disagreed, and then overnight this decision happened. Eventually, if you think about it, why do you think Thomas Tuchel wasn't a success in Bayern Munich? Now, Bayern Munich expects their coach to do much more, like how an old Manchester United expected you to do, right? That is that club. Thomas Tuchel is a coach. So right now, if you actually remove the differences, Thomas Tuchel would have been ideal for the squad. And mind you, there are still, you named a couple of them, including Chilwell, who are still there, who have played under Thomas Tuchel. So there was no doubt for me that we made a blunder. But beyond that, we have made blunder after blunder after blunder. So it's all about understanding what Chelsea DNA is, understanding what football in England is, and with all due respect, not what soccer in England is. I think that's the difference that these owners don't understand. And Pochettino, it was a clear case that Pochettino did not feel respected. It was yes, Gallagher and Chalobah are two names that have been thrown about, that Pochettino wanted to keep, the owners want to sell because of FFP reasons, because they're homegrown. But honestly, Pochettino from the last few press conferences mentioned, if you have seen that I haven't been speaking to the owners. The way we work is I speak to the director. So indirectly, he was taunting them that I don't know where you are. Like, do you really care about the club? Here I'm talking with the directors who know, S or BS about football. Because these are like, come on, Brighton, we become Chelsea and Hove Albion. You didn't mention we've become Leicester. We've become Chelsea and Hove Albion. Thank goodness we did not appoint Roberto De Zerbi, at least.
Yes. I mean, I just want a point here. I mean, and hello to everybody in the chat. Just been running through the things. I can't wait for us to get Ruud van Nistelrooy in 12 months to do swapsies with Enzo. I wouldn't have Enzo back, to be honest with you. I think I'm one of the few Leicester fans that is happy to be dancing on his grave that he's going to Chelsea. I mean, obviously, I mean, when we got him, the Pep thing will always be there. It will always be there. We got him and we were excited because of the Pep link. I don't think if he was linked to Pep, you'd have necessarily been going for him. But, it seems to be that Pep is Jesus and he's going to end up with his 12 disciples all at different clubs everywhere. You've got Arteta, you got Company, who's obviously at Bayern now. But when you look, I mean, I've got to say this. Give me your feelings on the appointment. Well, it looks like it's going to be the appointment. Obviously, it's still to be confirmed. Although Ben has said here, I haven't seen this at all, Ben. It won't come up. Hang on a second. There we go. Hi, Foxes fans. Anyone here? The new room saying Enzo might not be going because of Pep. I have heard absolutely nothing about that at all. But Ben, do come on tomorrow night at 7. That's Friday night at 7 o'clock. We will have Rob Tanner on from The Athletic giving us the update. So come on and ask that question then. I haven't heard that. Don't know if you've heard it at all, Ankit.
Yeah, so there are some rumblings going on that it's taking a little bit more time that what was expected. But once you have Di Marzio, Fabricio, and the others, kind of saying it, the confidence with which they're saying, even including Ornstein, if I remember right. So I think we'll have to take it that way, and that's how the modern day journalism goes, right? But at the same time, it's quite obvious that. It's a natural thing, because I think we were also going for a number 2 in Cesc Fabregas, which we have stopped now from Como, who's already an assistant there. So now we have stopped, and the reason is because obviously Enzo has his team, and I believe Willy Caballero being an ex-Chelsea man as well. There are rumblings that the word is out there that they are coming. So I think it'll be really surprised if something haywire goes from here. In case, I know that 1% chance is always there. In case it happens, we are like, our reputation, which has already gone down. We have become like, I don't like saying it. I love my club absolutely to bits. You know it, Chris. But especially with the owners coming in and with the Potch era just ending, we are almost feeling like are we the new Spurs? With all due respect, we are actually feeling that with Chelsea fans, because there's nothing that the fans' voice is being heard. Absolutely nothing. Be it the players, the manager, the way we play, the way Stamford Bridge is, be it even our Chelsea TV, etc. A lot of things are going against what fans actually want. And you remember Manchester United have gone through that phase already under the Glazers, right? And I think Arsenal were going through that way, but Arsenal eventually changed, and they're like, no, we'll stick with Arteta. And what Arsene Wenger is to do, let Arteta call the shots for the club and not just the team. I think at some point these owners, I think Maresca is coming, first of all, let's assume. And my take on that is, obviously, if you ask me, he was not in my top 10 of my preferences, right? And I'll be honest to God, like, we spoke about Enzo Maresca in detail, even like watching a little bit of Championship myself, because Chelsea met Leicester in the FA Cup, as you know, and Brad was on my channel, and we did discuss in detail. And I think what I understand is there was a lot of influence from Pep Guardiola ball, but at the same time, I feel that this is similar to somewhere across between Pep and what Sarri used to do at Chelsea when he used to play. So there's a lot of possession-based football, but at the same time, there is a lot of room for high energy and transitions, triangles, a switch-off play, etc., which is something, and the dynamism with fullbacks, which is something with Potch himself learning partly from Pep, as he's admitted, is something there. But the possession bit of it, now, how many Chelsea teams from the past? How many? I mean, I have been watching from the 90s, Chris. You've been watching from earlier. Trust me, how many Chelsea teams do you associate with possession-based football? I don't.
Not that many, if I'm honest with you. No. And
exactly.
And Enzo does like his possession-based football.
Correct.
And
Sarri ball was good for the first few weeks, for the first few months. As, mind you, was Leicester last season, and Leicester had a fantastic start. In fact, till about, I think, January, you were fine, but then you had this dip, if you remember, the couple of months that you did.
Oh, I remember it well. Thank you very much for reminding me.
So the team suss you out, right? You have a plan B, is what I understand. Plus the experience bit of it. Like, how many, like, I understand Leicester was a good squad. Like, you had Jamie Vardy, the Ricardo Pereiras, the Albrightons of the world. I know that. Okay. So, but you don't associate them players with high egos still, correct? What it takes to kind of manage a big club. You need to make those tough calls. Like, a Ten Hag is facing it difficult, and he's really, he's gutsy. He's finding it difficult at Manchester United. You know what I mean?
I think managing Chelsea and your team and squad and our team and squad are two different things. I don't think when you're in a team that's just been relegated, I don't think you can afford to have an ego. And if you do, then you should be kicked out because you just got the bloody team relegated. But we had a fantastic start. We couldn't believe it. We thought, oh, here he's come from Pep's number 2, and he's lifting the Champions League 6 days before he signed for us, and here we are, 17 points clear. I kept saying we're going to hit the buffers at some times. We're going to have a bad patch, and we did. And what we discovered with Enzo is, and we always said that Brendan Rodgers was stubborn, but my God, is Enzo stubborn? People were starting to murmur. They didn't like it. It was slow-paced football. My particular opinion is, as long as I'm winning, I don't care. It's all about the winning. But some fans were discontented. He spat his dummy out and said, look, if people aren't happy, I'll leave. And then when we were struggling, he wouldn't change it. He stick to the same thing all the time. And that is the worrying thing. We always say about a plan B or whatever and he was learning. And I accept that. He didn't last long at Parma for whatever reason. He was learning with us. He was going to get things wrong. But he was so inconsistent. Some weeks he'd get it spot on with his substitutions. Then the next week, suddenly we wouldn't see any or whatever. And I just wonder how long Chelsea... Well, I don't think Chelsea are going to give him the time that Leicester would give him the time. And that's what I worry about for him. Well, I'm not worried.
We don't have an option, Chris, this time. Again, we have made once bitten, twice shy. I don't know why though, but with Graham Potter, we've exactly seen that movie. Like Graham Potter, we offered him a 5-year contract, and we all know how it ended. Like I have to say, Graham Potter is one of our worst managers ever, and I mean ever. And we've had some bad ones at that, right? She was that bad, at least in terms of managing.
Do you think? Because I mean, he came in. He had no idea who was being signed because
it's unfair on him. I totally get it. It's unfair on him, but taking away the fact that is unfair on him, and just from a neutral, if you're looking at just the way that where Chelsea was and to where he got it, I think the fact that we were almost like, please end our season in January, that's how bad it was. And trust me, that's the last thing that you would say. So for me, that is something that we suffered, and then we had to pay the compensation that we had to do. And then we got in Pochettino. Pochettino was a 2+1 year deal, which is something that at least to some extent I agreed, although I didn't agree to the point of Pochettino, and we backed him. And again, he took a good 6 months to kind of settle. We had too many injuries, and then by the time things started clicking, at least on paper, that's when they didn't click off the pitch, and he walked off, or rather sacked, whatever you want to think. So now that it has happened, both the things have happened. How can you go on a manager who's again won a trophy but championship, right? And with that, yes, it helps that he's coached Cole Palmer, Lavia, who, mind you, I don't know if he exists. He's been that injured, Now that helps, yes. And the Willy Caballero coming along with it helps to some extent. Also, the fact that we have been linked to a couple of ex-Man City graduates like Adra Bioyo, Olise. There's a lot of news coming in today. So if he gets what exactly he's looking for, and if he plays with half the team being his players, I can get it from a footballing perspective. But I cannot get, in whatever world, how can you decide to give him a 5+1 year contract? I don't get that whatsoever, especially since we are talking about selling our assets. And let's get that real. Cobham is one of the best academies in England, and we are ready to sell Conor Gallagher and Chaloba just to balance that. And here we have the audacity to give a 5-year contract and the severance pay to managers like we don't care. So it doesn't add up. The women's team are doing fantastic right now. They are keeping the blue flag flying high, and they deserve the coach change. Although Emma Hayes is a legend and a statue is on the way, but the reality is that we are getting someone there in the name of Sonia, who's having a brilliant career with Leon. And here for the men's team, we don't care. I don't understand why is this happening. Like, it used to be the other way around. Although I'm glad finally the women's team is getting their due. But why is it the men's team are not at all being looked at that way? Are we just business? It seems like that to me.
I mean, you finished 6th. You're in Europe, albeit, it is the Conference League. But look, a trophy's a trophy. I mean, that's the sort of tournament you should go in and win. That makes it a little bit easier for Enzo, because you're not going to be up against any really big teams, because they're going to be, obviously, no disrespect, in the Europa or the Champions League. But you won your last 6 games. Things, like you said earlier, seem to be clicking, and you're letting. And I understand why you don't like him. And, we're getting the same because we're talking about possibly Steve Cooper coming, and he was at Forest, or Mark Robinson, he was at Coventry. We obviously always have that with rivals. We had Wes Morgan, one of our best defenders. He was our captain. He came from Nottingham Forest. We embraced him. I don't care personally if a manager comes in, and I know that was a game and a half, that particular one. It was like watching WWE at the end, wasn't it? But it was not particularly savoury. But if Potch, let's say, had been given a bit longer, he'd won you the FA Cup. Would it matter where he'd come from?
See, that's the thing, right? So you hit the nail on the head, because of which we did not improve as a squad in terms of mentality. Now, there's a difference. One thing is we improved on paper when the injuries, were lesser, and it showed on on the pitch. But if you notice, even in those crucial few games, you were a little bit lucky as well to finish sixth, because Manchester United dropped off towards the end. If you remember, even Newcastle dropped off, even Spurs dropped off. Like, there was a genuine chance in the last match that we could actually get fifth if Sheffield United, did what they did to Chelsea, although that didn't happen. And luckily they are going to Europa League. But the point being that I think, yes, we could all blame that Manchester City were dross in that FA Cup final, and we're all cheering Manchester City because we wanted to be in the Europa League. But the reality is, was I impressed with Potch ball all the time? I wasn't. And that doesn't mean to say I wanted him to sack all the time. What I mean to say is, here, there was a moment which was clear as day one. When you appointed him, it was the wrong appointment, like I said earlier. But even in December, we were actually, if you see the average position on the table for Chelsea to be, for a back-to-back season, be at 10th is almost embarrassing, if not worse. That's how it was. Our average position on the table was that. And I think it's along with a lot of other things which happen off the pitch because of the non-control of transfers. I think it's also the fact that the data clearly tells, and these people are new owners, that we were not great in terms of really winning the games that mattered most. And we are talking about games against mid-table sides and things like that. So at that point in time, I think I was expecting an upgrade to Potch. And again, Enzo has done brilliantly in what he's been asked to do in Leicester, right? At least on paper, towards the end, you have to admit that. Similar to Potch, you can say that he was improving. But the whole picture is, neither of them really are the upgrade to really we wanted, even after Potter, if I'm really being honest about it. Like, there were, because you're seeing, like, I understand if there were people who were not available. Now we are looking at Xavi possibly being available, who has been let go by Barcelona. I know he's not having the English culture, so to speak, but there were also talks about Fabregas coming in with Xavi, working with him. That was an option. Of course, there's always an option. You kill your ego, you just eat it up like humble pie, and just go back to Thomas Tuchel and finish that project, which we actually started off with. Like, Thomas Tuchel was sacked one day after the transfer window ended. Like, how funny could it get? Like, that tells it all. Right, so our players actually were Thomas Tuchel's team. It wasn't really Pochettino's team. Pochettino's team became last time because he made a hell number of changes and he was okay with the directors doing it. Now, these are people who are available. Even like I would be okay with the Jose 3.0, because we need right now to kind of the ship which was train which was derailed to kind of get it on track. So right now you wouldn't like go and experiment once again and throw darts in the dark.
Well, you as you said, you made very good points there. But you experimented with Potter, and I thought when you took Potter, I thought fair enough. I always said with Graham Potter, come back and tell me he's brilliant when he's won something. He hasn't, and at the moment I imagine you're still paying him until he signs for another club. But you did that experiment, and I thought that's very brave, but. Guys come in. I thought you were wrong to sack Tuchel, but you took on Potter. I thought, going to give a young English manager a chance here. And yet, like I say, he didn't get that chance for whatever reason. That was a gamble. This is not a bigger gamble for you, though, because
exactly it is.
At least Potter had Premier League experience.
You know what? It's as simple as that. Like, I think it's clear. Like, the owners are not going anywhere. Let's get that out first. Right? The owners are not going anywhere, and we have to, whether we talk it in the terms of suffering or whether we talk it in terms of just getting to know them, we are going through that phase, right? And that's a reality. And they will not change the way that they are overnight, and neither will us as fans. But the directors, now in all of this, the directors, the especially Lawrence and Paul, the two directors we're talking about, one comes from Monaco, one comes from Brighton slash the Red Bull Group, right? So they are coming from that kind of ideologies that it's all about rebuild, rebuild, rebuild. The whole idea was, when you get out a Pochettino, rather agreed for him to walk away, he is experienced. He might not be the best guy, but he was experienced. And once you have kind of, got the ship right where it belongs, or closer to it, that is Europe, you want someone who either knows Chelsea, and it could be a little bit inexperienced as well, but knows the Chelsea DNA, or is experienced enough in the Premier League. Now, one of the things that I noticed about these owners, or rather the journalists, saying that they were preferring on people who have managed in England. Now, I respect that and I get that totally, right? But we've had managers in the recent past, which is including Potter, technically Lampard, as well as Pochettino, who have done that. But the difference in each of them was, when it matters, and I'm talking about the quarterfinals, the semi-finals, the finals of cup competitions. Leave the league. I didn't expect such a changing team to win the league or come in top four for sure. I knew that. But at least the cup, and Chelsea is always, and late 90s also, we were always known as a cup team, and that's what Chelsea's DNA, first DNA thing is. And it pains me to say
I
that
think the East Midlands club stopped you being a cup team, didn't they? Oh, sorry, did I say that out loud? Sorry, mate.
But basically speaking, and I'll not take names, but you know what? Bottling is associated with a certain couple of clubs, and we were bottling semi-finals and finals. We were bottling them, and we were literally bottling them. So that tells me that we need someone with experience, or someone who's actually won things with Chelsea, and only all the directions point to, or someone who's won things at the top level. So Xavi, Tuchel, Conte, Mourinho, these are all the answers who are available. Mind you, they're all available. Like, even I would have gone back to Sarri, because even he's won with Chelsea, and he's far too experienced, and he's respected. Another thing is about the pull, the manager pull. Like Enzo Maresca has played under, I think Pellegrini is a player, and of course assisted Pep Guardiola. Respect, right? But come on, even you'll admit, Chris, he's not going to pull names in the transfer market, because right now Europa League is not going to be, or rather Conference League, mind you, will not pull us names, right? So we need that, because our competitors are all going upwards and we are going downwards. And unfortunately, I have to say, like, I'm feeling literally, if not how I was feeling then, but even worse than what an early Chelsea fan in the late 90s was, because we didn't have that pull, and we were forced to get player managers in. And that is the era that probably might save us in the end, because the directors are going if this gets wrong. And I think this is the last experiment that they've taken, that they know that things are going wrong, but somehow if it gets right, they will be the heroes and they will be here forever.
Of course. I mean, it's like, you get it right, they love you. You get it wrong, they hate you. But I'm just looking, Tuchel here. All right, you're on about winning FA Cups or Carabao Cups. He won you in the same season Champions League, the Super Cup, the FIFA Club World Cup. Those are the three huge ones. And yet, you got rid of him for Potter. The question I'm going to ask you here, though, now is, at Chelsea, who runs your transfers? Does the manager have any say at all, or is it purely Bowley says, I want him in, I want him in? The thing, and again, please correct me, because I don't know the club. I only see what I see from outside, and it could well be wrong. But the thing, that joke that was going around was that you had players that had to get changed in the corridors. It was like an NHS hospital, because there just wasn't any seats in the changing room because you had that many players. Does the manager have any say at all? Because I know that Enzo will want that say.
See, what at least what Pochettino has said numerous times during the recent past is that he was definitely aware of the names, and he had his preferences, and they went with that, right? So that means to say that the directors do all the scouting along with the scouts, of course. Like Joe Shield is one who basically is a good scout, mind you, and he, along with Lawrence and Paul, the two main directors, sporting directors, these are the three people who kind of get together, discuss. Supposedly Iqbali is the figure who's the real majority stakeholder in Chelsea as far as Clear Lake is concerned. I don't know, I by default say it Clown Lake, but Burley himself, you won't believe it, he himself is a puppet. Now, Burley supposedly has uh, been not agreeing with a lot of things that this ownership is doing, and that's one of the major issues as well. The owners themselves are having conflicts. Wiss happens to be an ex Spurs guy. Can you believe it? He happens to be an ex Spurs guy. He's a
Oh,
Spurs fan, right? And Burley, Burley is someone who's just a good speaker, so he's been put in front of the cameras, and again he doesn't speak to Chelsea, he speaks to basically a third party, which is kind of again documented, who knows what it is, right? So with
mm,
that, he's that person, and he says the good things, he's more like a PR kind of guy. But the main guy is Iqbali and the sporting directors, along with a couple of say the scouting coaches, etc., right? So
yeah,
they are the main guys, and then the final approval or a yes or a no, of course the coach or the head coach has it, right? But
yeah.
it's too late by then because they've already done their homework so much, and the time factor, like I remember last season, I think Potch should have started in on July 1st or June 15th. He started on July 15th first. That was the error, and by then we had removed entire midfield. Our entire midfield was gone. Like Kante is back in the France squad. I think that is in itself for you to say. N'Golo
Mm,
Kante, letting him go on a free, like he is, like there will never be an N'Golo Kante ever. And I know that he was way too injured. He got a lot of salary, but I don't know in what world can you let him go on a free. Similar to how PSG are feeling with Mbappe, right? Like I know they're two different players altogether, but these are generational players we're talking about. A Kovacic would have been a brilliant leader in that middle. Kovacic is rotting the bench on City most of the times. Like I don't even understand that. Like these are winners we are talking about, right? Leave. I'm not even talking about the Mason Mounts and the Kai Havertz, even the Jorginhos, but Kante, Kovacic, like people like Aspilicueta. He Aspilicueta just played a semi-final of the Champions League.
mm,
Martson, we are letting him go on loan or we are selling him. He's going to play in what 2 days' time the finals of the Champions League. Like the decisions that these directors have taken is baffling, baffling.
mm,
And I think the owners are themselves partly the puppet as well as the manager. I think
mm.
it's all the sporting directors. We are kind of depending too much on sporting directors. Mind you, if Petr Cech was in the same room as them two, I genuinely believe that better decisions would have been taken. And that's the major error that we have made in the last 1.5 years.
Yes. Um, do you? I mean, how can I put this? If he does come, and like I say, I haven't seen these rumours to say that he's not coming. Um, do you think he will come back? And we've got one or two good players. We've got Kieran Dewsbury Hall. We've got Fatawu just going to sign for us, but there's nothing to say we can't sell. We have to sell, I think, for PSR. Two points to the question. One, do you think there's many players that any players he'd come to Leicester for, or he might be putting his contract he can't? And B, the rumours are that Chelsea have got to have a fire sale themselves because they've got so many players
Right.
and because of PSR.
I think the latter part might force us to maybe for once, and that's a good once, I mean, right? For once,
Mm,
ask the manager that, see, as in we are going to be selling Gallagher, and there are rumors saying that Enzo Maresca already has had chats with a couple of Chelsea players. He believes in Gallagher as a player, and trust me, Gallagher is never a bad player. No one's going to say, but he's not a world beater at the same time, right? But he is someone who fits in that Dewsbury Hall kind of profile, because Dewsbury Hall is someone who really works hard, at the same time has got a few goals and assists this time, which is contrary to what he did previously. So I think that is where Enzo Ball works. Gallagher, the difference being he's not as secure in the position compared to
mm,
Dewsbury Hall. I think on the ball Dewsbury Hall is slightly better, but on shot taking I think Gallagher is better. So if Gallagher is let go, I can see that being one possibility. But don't be surprised, I know he's undergone a major operation and he's one of the most expensive players ever. Enzo Fernandez, I genuinely believe that this is a great, I know it's just a namesake of Enzo Maresca, but I think it can be a great thing for him, because Enzo Fernandez, despite being Argentine, Pochettino did not know how to use Enzo Fernandez. And Enzo Fernandez, for all the injuries that he's had recently, and he's played literally every minute till the time he played last season, the previous season, which was arguably a worst season ever, he was a standout. he was a standout in by having just joined in January. Like we could see the right,
I
Chris.
don't
Like for
think,
example,
sorry, I was going to say, I don't think it was you, and I don't want to rub it in at all here, but I think your worst season ever was when we won the Premier League and you finished 10th. But I'm just going to, I just want to throw
that
that
was
out
made better by beating Spurs, right? But the last season we finished 12th, right? But I hear you exactly. But I can tell you an example. Like Reece James missed the entire season this season, right?
Mm.
And towards the end, I know he got that red card, stupid one at that. But before that, that one game, we changed the match in about 20 minutes. And Reece James, the moment he stepped on the pitch, you clearly see that, oh wow, this is a level above the others. This guy's a level above the others. With Enzo, you feel that. With Enzo Fernandez, you felt that. Pochettino got Enzo working hard like he was Gallagher. Like Gallagher is brilliant. I love him to the core. He Gallagher dog is what he called because of the work rate he has, the passion for Chelsea he has. But I think in Enzo Maresca, there's a lot of positives that people like Enzo Fernandez, Caicedo. Don't be surprised if Caicedo kind of, I think, like NDD, he can do up and down Caicedo, as well as you can almost argue that Caicedo has a better pass on him than NDD on his day. I think he's had 4 brilliant months towards the end of the season, I would say, along with Cucurella, who's also improved. So Cucurella can kind of, invert and come to midfield, which is what, again, Enzo likes, Enzo Maresca. I know he prefers a right back doing that, but I think in Chelsea, I can see Cucurella doing that because we saw that in the Potch. So there are a lot of positives in the current squad, for sure. But in terms of recruitment, I think time will tell. It's too early to say what kind of players he's going to get because first thing, as you said, Chelsea on paper has so many players. Although we reduced the squad this season, we were far too less than what we were the previous season. That is because of injuries, though. If the injured players come back, we are still a big enough squad. So we need to sell players like people like Ugo Chukwu. I don't see them really getting a lot of game time. I know Harry Winks played that number 6 role, but in Chelsea, I think we need a number 6. So if I was you, I would actually basically asking not just about Dewsbury Hall. I know he's a Spurs guy, but Harry Winks because he actually played well in my opinion. What do you think?
Oh, he was my player of the season, fantastic. And only 10 million, what a bargain. I've got to say, with a yes or a no, if you were Todd Bowley, would you be appointing Enzo now?
Like given the case of the way we are going about our recruitment, right? I can understand that, right? I can understand that. But now that we've already kind of like it's all clear that he's going to be signed, I don't think it's fair for Enzo Maresca as well as for Chelsea to kind of pull out of it. I think it's going to happen anytime soon. But even now, like I know it's not going to happen. And nothing against Enzo Maresca, right? He's a respected man, and we've had an Italian connection with a lot of managers. I have to say, if in case overnight, I don't know, something happens and suddenly Thomas Tuchel and Iqbali have a phone call and they kind of hug it up on the phone. I don't know what happens.
Yeah,
I would bite your hand off. Like Thomas Tuchel, like we are like if you saw that banner which was out in Chelsea when Thomas Tuchel, and I don't know if you know, he had a landmark match just the match before he was sacked. And he said that I hope I have 100 more and 100 more and 100 more of Chelsea. Like, and I actually feel, I don't know why I have this bad feeling which happens with a lot of Chelsea managers. He will come to the Premier League. He will come to the Premier League. I fear that he will become Manchester United manager, Thomas Tuchel. I can't see that. Like one of my heroes, Jose Mourinho, becoming that and Spurs manager pained me enough. I cannot see that. Come on. And again, nothing against Enzo Maresca. I know that we'll play some good football, but see, good football doesn't get you trophies, and we are a trophy-winning club. That's the reality.
2 last questions. Last one, really. Expectations. Look, you finished 6th, as you say. You're in the conference. Enzo's going to come in. Like with any new manager, he's going to have his own style of play, which I think is different to the way Potch was. Potch a 4-3-3 man? I'm not sure, but
yeah. So Potch kind of adapted that towards the end and in preseason, ironically. So because we had injuries to, I think mainly Christopher Nkunku and Romeo Lavia. So these were 2 very important signings for Chelsea, Romeo Lavia and Christopher Nkunku, because they were not available, and of course Reece James. These 3 were not available for majority part of the season. You can also put in Ben Chilwell there. because of that, he changed his gameplay to more negative. But actually, if you see Potch ball, it started off with a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3, which changed into a 3-3-3-1, which is not too very different. I know it kind of makes the pitch narrow, but he believed in switch off play versus Enzo believes in possession football. So because of possession football, I see that he turns from a 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3 into a 3-2-4-1 or a 3-2-5. Correct? So I think with that, I don't see like a major difference, but the main difference is the midfield. Now in midfield, Poch have played with three people in midfield all the time, right? At best. Enzo Maresca, I think there's a possibility of actually playing with four people there. So with a 3-2-4-1 or a 3-5, there might be five people. So I think midfield is something that I see us improving on in terms of the transitions. But again, the wings, I'm not too sure on that because we get beaten on the wings and we are very bad in crosses. There's a Brentford coach coming in, by the way, set piece coach coming to Chelsea. So I see that. But I expect us to at least get top five, Chris. I know it's far too harsh or over expecting, from a new manager coming from the championship. You either give me a top five, which I assume, God forbid, I hope that this time at least the English teams do well in the UCL, unlike last time, so that the top five teams qualify the next year.
I mean,
but
if you're looking at top five, Man City are going to be there, almost certainly. Arsenal, I would expect to be there.
Yes.
Liverpool, new manager syndrome. You're not quite sure.
Maybe may not be.
Villa will be there. You'd have to displace Tottenham. I know Haz is in, so I'm sorry, Haz, but you could possibly replace Tottenham because they're just Tottenham, aren't they? Really?
I see the Tottenham or Liverpool is what I'm seeing basically at this point in time, who are there to be replaced.
Those are the two I think you could possibly go for. So okay, and you're the sort of club with your recent history. I can understand that that's what you would be aiming for. Now, let's say Enzo doesn't deliver that in the first season. Does he go? Does he even last? I mean, I made a joke the other day that, well, if he goes to Chelsea, at least, by the time they sack him, he'll be ready for the pantomime season.
Imagine if Leicester end up above Chelsea. Just imagine that situation.
I'd love it. I'd love that. It won't, because we're probably going to get about a 30-point deduction. But
wow, that's also true.
If he doesn't get you top five, or it doesn't look like he's going to be getting you top
he needs to win a trophy, Chris. I'm like old school fan. He needs to win a trophy. I think for me, that's an absolute minimum. Like, say for example, if you finish in the top 10, not in the top 5 again, but I know we were very close to winning a trophy, mind you, last season as well, but that was still Potch. He's a Spurs guy. Like, Enzo Maresca, I don't despise him, do I? Why should I despise him? I shouldn't despise him. Because he's coming with a good mentality, he's coming with a good background, and of course, Leicester and Chelsea have had actually a good connection, mind you. Like, despite the FA Cup final, we won't talk about that. But I think, there's always that thing that you would like to continue. The continuity factor is required in Chelsea at some point. But if he doesn't get you top 5, neither gets top 5 nor wins your trophy. And mind you, we have an extra trophy this time. I know it's too good to be true, but we are Chelsea and we associate ourselves with Europe. And I think the Club World Cup in 2025, we are lucky enough to be invited. So we are there in that as well. So he has an extra cup competition. So I think we are still good enough in terms of the squad, and we'll make a couple of good signings. I still believe we are.
And I totally understand why he would want to go to Chelsea. Because with your recent history, you are bigger than Leicester. Just like us being linked with the West Brom job, you could say we're bigger than West Brom have been over our recent history, if you like. But let's say he gets knocked out of the League Cup early doors. You're at the League Cup by January. Couple of rounds into the FA Cup, you get drawn against Man City, you get knocked out.
And we're doing badly in the league.
It doesn't look, but I say then doesn't look, because this is a new manager that's coming in.
He's gone in December.
Is he gone then? Is he gone?
He's gone. It's harsh. I know it's harsh and it's the wrong call. It's absolutely the wrong call. And we've hit our foot with our own hand. That's a reality, because we've given a 5-year contract. But I don't see him staying, because trust me, Chelsea we are almost risking mediocrity. And I think that's the last thing that we associate Chelsea with. And I don't think we can afford that a third time in a third-year season again, not having Europe. We just cannot. And that's why I'm saying Pochettino, I would have sacked him in December. The writing was on the wall.
Yeah.
But it's the wrong timing. We always choose the wrong time. Sack Tuchel one day after the transfer window. Sack Pochettino one day after finishing top 6. I don't get it. So this time, don't do that. Either stick with him the entire season, or make sure that you sack him in December. And that's the only thing. Obviously, I won the
Give
first
them
one.
a chance in the transfer window, and then you can say if it doesn't
Right.
work out, it's your team. You brought the new players in. And very last question now. It looks like we are going to be starting the season with the points deduction. And at the end of the day, if we have broken PSR, FFP, PPI, whatever it's called these days, if we've broken it, fair enough. We'll have to take that on the chin. Thankfully, we should have most of the season to try and claw that back, unlike Everton and Forest, who only had probably a third of the season. So that is the one silver lining. But the one thing that Leicester fans, and indeed myself, have been saying a lot is, hang on. Manchester City, 115 rules. Well, they're saying you can't do them for 115, there's too many. We'll do them for 1 or 2. And I'm sorry, but Chelsea also fall into that bracket. Everybody says, well, Chelsea have broken the rules and blah, blah, and this. And
for sure.
They're getting
100%.
around it by offering, like Fofana a 20-year contract, so they're paying over whatever.
Like we are signing every kid in the world, Chris. We are signing every kid in the world. Literally, every super kid in the world we are signing right now. So there is something wrong.
But do you feel that as a Big Six club, which the way Sky see you, and I don't like that term Big Six, let's face it, that's how Sky do. And I understand more people are going to watch Chelsea versus Tottenham on Sky than are going to watch Leicester play Nottingham Forest. I get that. Do you feel that as a top 6 club, you almost feel untouchable? Because the way we look at it, and not just Chelsea, I'm not having a go at you as a Chelsea fan, but Chelsea, Man City, and if this was Arsenal or Liverpool, we're getting punished. Forest are getting punished. Everton are getting punished. Man City and Chelsea, you're not.
Oh yeah, I cannot sit here and say that we are like saints. I'm not going to say that. Definitely, we are at fault as well, and we should be dealt with that as well. My only thing is there's almost a hierarchy, Chris. I'm not sure if you get that. I know you're trying to say that the Big Six and the rest, right? I see it even otherwise. I see there's almost a hierarchy in the way that clubs have won over the FA. I don't know if it's a subconscious thing, and I know I might piss off some Manchester City fans here. City fans have been lucky as much as they've been brilliant on the pitch and the way that the club has been run, but that also is questionable. And you cannot see. I know 115. A lot of them are similar charges, and it's just way blown out of proportions. But it cannot. There's no smoke without fire. You know what I mean? So there is definitely wrong. And I mean to say why I'm still going to defend my club is we've been through sanctions, we've been through transfer bans. We've been through that. And you can almost argue that we shouldn't have been sanctioned. And that is a huge thing in itself. And I think for once, I hope that the FA kind of realizes what we have been through. We have taken a punishment as a club already. Like a club has changed inside out. But I get that. Points deduction is different. And I think even if it comes to Chelsea, we deserve it. But before us, there's a hierarchy. You know what I meant? So I think people who are clever will understand what I'm trying to say. But I agree with you. I cannot disagree with you. But at the same time, I think we've been dealt with punishments already. Although not directly, but indirectly, way too harsh.
You had the transfer ban, didn't you? When Lampard...
Oh, yes. And we got top 4 in the transfer ban. No one talks about it, Chris. No one talks about it. We had transfer ban and we got the top 4. I know we were forced to play the youngsters. And I think, and as much as Man City definitely are getting their, flowers right now, because they've done so well in the academy as well as the Premier League. But I think if you look around the entire footballing world, there's on average one player from Cobham in almost every popular club out there.
Yes, yeah. Oh, you do. I mean, like you say, you are keeping the football world going. But look, Ankit, thank you so very much for coming on. It's been
my pleasure.
Brilliant to hear it from the other side, if you like, because we've heard it from the Leicester side non-stop for a week and a half. Guys, do check out tomorrow. I don't know if we're going live or is it going to be a pre-record on yours?
No, we'll go live. The plan is to go live. Definitely. I think we are planning to go live at around 2:30 p.m. UK. I want to hear, just like Chris is hearing me out, I want to hear from Chris because I know there's a lot in there. So I would get...
I'm holding it
details
back
of
today. I'm holding it back.
Maresca. Yeah, so, and let's see if we can help out each other in terms of the transfers and whatnot. And that's just a banter, you know what it is.
Actually, you've just reminded me, and I do apologise. You said that word then. Cashaday, we had him on loan. He wasn't. He scored within a couple of minutes of coming on in this first game.
Yeah, I saw that.
He didn't get a lot of game time, in fairness, but indeed he had just been injured. So he was going to go and probably have a decent run in the team because indeed he was out for quite a long time.
Correct.
You recalled him, and I think he's played
literally
5 minutes.
Exactly, and that too, getting him on as though he is Fellaini and getting him in the last 2 minutes of games. You know what? This is what about Potch I will not miss. I will not miss about Pochettino. There were a lot of things which were papering over the cracks. So in some ways, I'm happy that he's gone. It's just the timing of it and the way we do it and whom we appoint. Jury's out. But Cassidy, I have high hopes, and I think it's a good thing for him that Potch is gone. As in Enzo has looked at him, so it'll help as well.
I think Enzo will definitely like him. But yeah, everybody, check it out tomorrow at 2:30 live. I'll be posting links in on obviously X and Facebook.
I believe it's linked below anyway, guys. So hope you guys.
Ankit, do tell everybody where they can find you. The link is in the description below. I'll have the other one for you.
Again, I always say, Chris, you know what? Again, big ups to Leicester TV, Chris and the team has been brilliant. And I've always said it. I know it gets way too emotional, but at the same time, there's banter. So there's middle ground that I have to find between us. But the reality is that I always love chatting with Chris. It's just that the time difference doesn't allow me to do all that time. But hopefully this season now they're back. Congratulations, Leicester fans, and we'll have a lot of discussions, not only on Leicester TV, but also on Almighty Blues FC. Almighty Blues FC is a fan channel for all to see. So that by that I mean, yes, I am a Chelsea fan, but I try and cover entire Premier League, entire Champions League, Euros. Chris, you remember the Euros days, right? We covered Euro 2020 together. Like that was fun. That was fun. We'll get that again. You know what? That reminds me, we have to set up those streams. And I think some of the most fun that I've had on those Euro streams with Chris and the gang. So we'll do that for sure.
Brilliant. A couple of good points here very quickly. Terry says that there's a penalty system now. You have to take Lampard as your manager. And Terry then adds even worse. If you break a PSR, you have to have Rooney for 20 matches.
That's a good idea. Good idea.
Ankit, thank you very much, mate. Take care. I'll see you at 2:30 tomorrow, and we'll do this all again. Oh my God, I've saved it up today. It's all going to come out tomorrow.
Sure. Thank you, guys.
Take care. All the best, mate. Bye-bye. Thanks so much to Ankit there. Lovely guy. His link is in the description below. Please do go over and give him a follow. He is one of the nice guys. And look, I think he's been very honest today. I think he hasn't held back, even with things like, the PSR and the points and what have you. So fair play to him. Fair play to him. But thanks to everybody. Thanks to Ankit. Like I say, 2:30 tomorrow, I'll be on his channel. Thanks very much for watching and all the comments in the chat. If you are watching this on catch up, add your comments below. Just keep them respectful. That's all we ask. But we can have banter, and you will got other opinions, so please add them. And if you've been listening via our favorite podcast or your favorite podcast platform, we're part of the TalkSport fan network for podcasts. So please give us a listen, and thank you for listening, and thank you for lending me your ears. We will be back tomorrow at 7 on this channel with Rob Tanner. He is the LCFC correspondent for The Athletic. There's only two people I trust when it comes to rumours. Fabrizio is one, Rob is the other. And we're going to be talking Enzo, we're going to be talking Top, how this is going to affect the transfers, etc. So there's a lot to be talked about, PSR as well, of course, and we will be doing that, and I'll be doing that with Rob tomorrow. Geordie says he was a nice guy. Yeah, he is a lovely guy. Ankit is absolutely lovely guy. You don't trust me with signing Mbappe. Americans, Nate. Bloody Americans ruining our clubs. Where are you from? Oops, I didn't say that out loud. I jest. And cheers, Geordie. Hey, look, mate, we'll have to have a chat when we play Newcastle. which I'm sure obviously we're going to because we're in your league now. But thanks to everybody. I will see you tomorrow night at 7. Do take care. Thanks for taking part and being in the chat with us. See you tomorrow. Good night.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.